How's it going, guys? Today I want to talk about, for my 3-minute video, this new initiative that President Biden has come out with that addresses specifically, I want to focus on Asian Americans and how it's going to affect them and help them in this country. Um, so I did my paper on Japanese Americans and how, in large part, they've been very successful in the United States, economically and academically. The problem with that is they are lumped into this group known as Asian Americans that are culturally very similar, but they're composed of groups of people from over 30 different countries and languages and cultures. And so with that, um, not every Asian American is, for example, like a Japanese American who has benefited greatly from this country and its culture. So this initiative done by President Biden, I think, is especially pertinent, especially to what we've been talking about in class. So I want to talk about three things from this fact sheet on whitehouse.gov, which is, first of all, um, expanding language access and language assistance programs for Asian Americans and their individuals across federal programs, which is a very first and foremost key and a very important thing that needs to get addressed. And I think it's awesome that the Biden administration is going to do this because of the dozens of cultures and languages that exist in the Asian American community here in our country. It's very difficult to understand and communicate with them and vice versa, them with us. And so by expanding the language access and language assistance programs for these individuals, I think it will tailor our language and culture to them. And I think with that, we will also learn a little bit about them as well. The next thing I want to talk about is addressing the concentration of poverty experienced in many Asian American communities, which, as we know, there are many different, for example, Chinatowns across the United States, which many of which suffer from infrastructure and public health issues, simply because we want them to have an environment like their hometown is great, but because of that, many of the necessities have been lacking. And just like, as I stated, not all Asian Americans have been as opportunistic as the Japanese American communities historically in the United States. And so that needs to be addressed as well. And the last thing I want to talk about is that we are going to the administration is going to promote inclusion, belonging for all Asian American communities by strengthening public awareness and education about their communities, cultures, and traditions, which is, again, especially important because we have dozens and dozens of communities in the Asian American community, all of which are similar but still very different. And we can't just lump them all into one group. I mean, we're talking about Asia, which is by far the most populated, diverse continent on the planet. And so by doing this, I think it will be very beneficial to America because America is a melting pot. And in order to melt together, we have to understand one another. And some new news in closing about this initiative is President Biden recently announced that he's going to spend several billion dollars on improving the caretaking and caregiving of Asian American individuals and families. My dad is in the caregiving business, and I think that's especially important because, as we know, learning about the various communities and ethnic groups in the United States, that Asian Americans, like others, are very specific, and they have their own morals and values and beliefs that are different from our Anglo-Saxon beliefs. And so it's important that we understand how to caretake for them and how to caregive and serve them in an appropriate, effective manner that hasn't really been done so far. And so overall, I think this initiative is awesome. And I encourage everyone to go read more about it and to pay attention to its progress and its status. And that's what I wanted to share with you. Hopefully you learned something new and something fun. I'll talk to you next time. See you guys.